Rod Association presents Championship Drag Racing on ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsports sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 300 miles an hour and traveling the quarter mile in less than 5 seconds. Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. Today, the $18 million 18-event Winston Championship Drag Racing Series stops at Gainesville Raceway in Gainesville, Florida for same-day coverage of the 4th event on the tour, the 24th annual Motorcraft Ford Gatornationals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and this is Gainesville, Florida. As you well know, Florida this time of the year has had its share of bad weather. The major storm a week ago didn't cause a whole lot of damage here to Gainesville Raceway, but this weekend it has been cloudy with a chance of rain and much cooler than normal temperatures. That's the bad news. The good news is that cool weather will motivate improved performances, and as a result, it now takes 2 hands to count the total number of 300-mile-an-hour runs. For that story, here's my good pal, Steve Evans.
You're right, Mac. You need that extra digit thanks to the man who drives this maroon missile, Scott Coletta. On qualifying here Friday, Scott became the 4th driver to hit the triple century mark. That's 6 300-mile-an-hour runs total in history. And ironically, it came a year almost to the minute after Kenny Bernstein first broke through the barrier. It was the highlight of Scott Coletta's revitalized top fuel career.
I can't believe it. Dick and the guys are doing a great job. I'm speechless. I knew it ran fast down there, about 1,000 foot. It just went, it took off. It's unbelievable.
The bulk of the credit for Scott Coletta's newfound performance and the 300-mile-an-hour blast is rightfully being given to Dick LaHaye, the crew chief. You won the Top Fuel title in '87. Obviously haven't forgotten how to wrench one of these things.
Well, you know, it's like some things you never forget. It's like riding a bicycle, I guess. It's just more of everything, you know, more fuel pump and different camshafts and cylinder heads and making it all fall together. And, you know, I've got to give a lot of credit to the crew guys that work for me and work with me. They are just excellent people. I mean, we've only been together since January, and what can I say? I mean, it just took us 4 races, and here we are, I guess.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You know, speed is always fun to talk about, but it doesn't win drag races. That's done with elapsed time. And the king in that department all season long has been unsponsored Corey McClamathan. You'll recall he set the record at 4.784 at Pomona earlier this year. Well, he improved upon it here Friday, 4.782.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll tell you, we're really excited. We've been struggling here a little bit, and I've been a little bit lax on driving lately, but I'll tell you, the boys are getting their stuff together, and I feel a little more comfortable in the car, a lot more confident, and we're ready for Sunday.
Speed has also made the big headlines in pro stock. Warren Johnson, the first driver to ever top 180, 190, and 195, has now raised the record to 196 and change with his Oldsmobile.
That's a little faster than the first one. I was kind of surprised about that. We had a little bit of breeze out there, and I was afraid it might slow it down a little bit. Shook the tires pretty hard on that run, so I don't think the ET was all that great. Great job. Thank you very much.
Well, Dave, on the Gainesville quarter mile, we have come to expect the unexpected, and you know as well as I do, there's a lot more to come.
Absolutely, Steve. The 1993 NHRA Motorcraft Ford Gatornationals is being brought to you by Motorcraft. Quality parts for quality cars from Ford. And by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. More top fuel action from Gainesville coming up next. If Gainesville Raceway can be called good to a top fuel racer, then it has been very, very good to Eddie Hill. He won back in 1988. He won again a year ago with 4 consecutive 480 elapsed times. But he comes to the Gatornationals this year with a brand new car, something most racers don't like to do. But Eddie, after 543 runs, an incredible number on the fabled nuclear banana, has replaced it with an exact duplicate chassis-wise. In fact, the only change in the entire Pennzoil Special has been a slight modification to the nose piece. Coming into this Motorcraft Gatornationals, Joe Amato held the Winston points lead, followed by Ed McCulloch, Doug Herbert, and Kenny Bernstein, with Eddie Hill in the number 5 spot. It was in qualifying that absolutely the most astonishing incident occurred. Watch the cars as they come towards you. Mike Dunn and Jack Ostrander look at the car, bow up in the middle. It then spun around the front half of the car with the chassis and Ostrander in the roll cage coming to rest atop the left-hand slick. Absolutely an astonishing event. What happened? It appeared that the top frame rail broke, allowing the car to bow up in the middle. The rear wheels actually came off the ground, and as the car slammed back to the pavement, the bottom frame rails broke. Steve was there.
Well, David, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of incidents in this sport, but none quite like this. As you can see, the car is upright in two pieces, the motor facing one way, the cockpit the other. Jack Ostrander is up out of the car, sitting on the roll cage. He appears to be as okay as you can be after an incident like this, and of course, he is about the most unlucky top fuel driver I've ever encountered. This is about his third really serious incident, but Jack's okay, apparently. You all right, Jack?
Yeah, I'm all right.
A wild one.
Oh, yeah. Tell me. I was in it.
Wild is a most fitting description for that most unusual incident. It was in round number 1 that Chris Karamessinis was against Rance McDaniel. Karamessinis in the near lane, had an engine let go, a giant fireball. He was okay. It was also in round number 1 of Top Fuel Eliminator that Kenny Bernstein, runner-up a year ago, squared off against the man that won this race, Eddie Hill. Hill brought his brand new race car to the starting line in the far lane. And as they left the starting line, Bernstein went up in smoke. Hill went to the finish line with a 488.
That was a duplicate of last year's final round. Same results, Eddie Hill.
Oh, I love it when it goes that way. I love to beat that red car.
That's a brand new car.
Yeah, this new car, I believe, is going to work. I hope this makes as good a car as that other one did. If we're still running this car another 5 years from now, it ought to be something, huh?
488 takes him to round 2.
Eddie Hill was certainly happy after that first round victory. Also in round number 1, Jim Head out of Columbus, Ohio, the number 14 qualifier, pulled off a big upset. His competition was Scott Coletta, who had the lane choice based on his qualifying time of a 488, but most importantly, he was the 4th man to run over 300 miles an hour, but he went out in round number 1 of competition.
Well, as we said earlier, speed doesn't win drag races. Elapsed time does, and Scott, you just didn't have enough of that.
Yeah, we're chasing a couple things here, and it dropped 2 cylinders after the 300-mile-an-hour run, and it fell off to 98. Obviously, it probably was 7 cylinders.
You had some fine driving, a nice hole shot, just wasn't enough.
Thanks.
The most disappointed 300-mile-an-hour runner in the country, Scott Coletta. As we went into round number 2, the pairings found Joe Amato to race Eddie Hill. Jim Head was challenging Tommy Johnson Jr. On the other side of the ladder, it was Corey McLenathan, the number 1 qualifier, against Mike Dunn, while Ed McCulloch and Rance McDaniel squared off again in yet another Mac Attack battle. McDaniel had qualified in the 5th spot. The 488 put the Fresno runner in. A 491 in round number 1 over Chris Karamessinis gave him the lane choice over Ed McCulloch. McCulloch had qualified well, number 4 at a 488, but had slowed just a bit to a 492 as McCulloch defeated Pat Bacon in round number 1. This second round race was a rematch of an event 2 weeks ago in Houston. McCulloch won there, and he won here in round number 2 as McDaniel left the starting line too soon.
Well, Ace, you dodged a howitzer shell on that one. He ran an 89 to Euro 1 and fouled.
Well, I saw him leave. I knew that, I knew that he had red lead. But, weather conditions change here a lot from round to round, and, we were lucky. What can I say?
Corey McLenathan had qualified with the quickest time ever at a 4.782. And as we came into the second round race, he still needed the 1% backup run to put him into the record book. His competition here was Mike Dunn, who had the lane choice in round number 2. He had run quicker in the first round when he beat Shelly Anderson. 486 was his time. A 490 for McLenathan, who slowed drastically from his qualifying effort. And here, McLenathan went up in smoke, and Dunn came through with another 480 elapsed time, a 488.
No oil, no fire, a 488. We're having some fun now with this new ride.
Loving life right now. Yeah,
Clayton Harris and Darrell worked together a little bit yesterday, and they found some problems in this La Victoria McGuire style fueler, and we brought it right around. It's running real consistent, and we're going to keep on doing it every round.
Keep on keeping on.
That's it.
Mike Dunn needed no luck there. He just outperformed a tire-blazing McLenathan, who was disappointed.
Corey, when you're low qualifier, the record holder, often you're right on the edge of traction loss, and you got bit.
Yeah, definitely. We backdropped a little bit, but it definitely wasn't enough. There wasn't enough heat in the track. When the rain and everything makes it a little bit tougher for our car. And like you said, when they run that good, they run on the edge. That's the way it goes.
Intermittent showers had plagued the running of this Gatornationals all the way up through round number 2, where Joe Amato was positioned against Eddie Hill. Amato got a big break in the first round when Doug Herbert blew a blower belt. After his Team Valvoline car had gone up in smoke, he was able to recover and drive past Herbert. It was the Pennzoil dragster of Eddie Hill holding the lane choice with a great 4:88 elapsed time in round 1. Once again in round number 2, Hill prevailed again with a 4:88 to advance to the semis.
Eddie Hill marching through this field just like he did a year ago, a 4:88. That's okay.
That feels good right about now. We'll certainly take that. And it didn't offer to smoke the tires. Felt like it was just nice and smooth.
It didn't hurt itself either.
I don't think so. It felt real strong through the end. I don't know what the speed was, but it felt like it's one of the better mile an hour. It was very healthy at its finish line.
Joe Amato here to shake your hand.
And once again, Eddie Hill celebrated. It was also in round number 2 that Tommy Johnson Jr. continued to perform very well here at Gainesville. His competition was Jim Head. Johnson had qualified with a great 4:88, defeated Don Prudhomme with a tremendous 4:90 in the first round, and had lane choice here against Head, who went up in smoke. And TJ Jr. ripped off his quickest elapsed time ever, 4:85 at 2:96.
You've been trying to hit 300. Have you put that in the backseat for a while?
Yeah, we're in eliminations now. We just want to win the race now.
Good plan.
That plan has brought Tommy Johnson Jr. to the semifinals. The first pair will be Mike Dunn against Ed McCulloch, and Dunn holds the lane choice of 4:88 to McCulloch's 5:01. The other side of the ladder finds that man, TJ Jr. How about it? 4:85. He'll get to pick his lane over the defending champ, Eddie Hill. A huge crowd on hand here at Gainesville Raceway. We'll be back with the semifinals of Top Fuel right after the in the 24th annual Motorcraft Gatornationals. The intermittent showers that have plagued this event practically all weekend long caused yet another delay in the racing action. But we're ready now for the semifinal round of Top Fuel Eliminator. In the far lane, it is Mike Dunn at the wheel of the La Victoria Salsa car, owned and tuned by Darrell Gwynn. His competition, Ed McCulloch at the wheel of the McDonald's entry of Larry Minor. Dunn has actually got the lane choice here. He had a great 4:88 in his second round victory over Corey McLenathan, while Ed McCulloch slowed to a 5:01 at only 2:86 as Rance McDaniel red-lighted away his chance in round number 2. You saw Dunn have to lift off the throttle. It is Ed McCulloch into the final round for the second race in a row. His elapsed time, 4.90. His speed, 296 miles an hour, as Ed McCulloch is in the championship of the Gatornationals. Our next pair at the starting line already fired and ready to go. This is Tommy Johnson Jr. He's at the wheel of the Mopar Express Lube car. TJ has got the lane choice over the defending champion, Eddie Hill, at the wheel of the Pennzoil Express. You're on board with Tommy Johnson Jr., watching him control that car in the burnout procedure. TJ Jr. had a great 4:85 in his second round victory over Jim Head, while it was Eddie Hill notching a 4:88 win over Joe Amato. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
When Mike Dunn had to pedal his car, it was all over, Ace. A 490 at 296. Nice.
Well, the conditions keep changing, but Lee Beard's got a fairly good handle on this McDonald's car, and the important thing is that we're putting it in the final round.
We've asked other drivers, what about you, lane choice?
Well, I don't think really there's, we really don't care. Both lanes, I think, are okay. It got loose a little bit in the right lane right there. I don't know if we'll have lane choice for next round or not, but maybe the left lane might be a little better. We'll see.
They always have a preference. You got to drag it out of them.
One of the great veterans of racing, Ed McCulloch, 51 years old in the final to face up against 57-year-old Eddie Hill. It is the Mopar Express Lube car of Tommy Johnson Jr. backing into position. But the big story here was the problems between rounds suffered by Eddie Hill. Earlier, Steve took a look at them.
David, just moments after you left the Eddie Hill camp, well, they found a big problem. Well, they think they found it. They started the engine after the rebuild, as they always do. It sounded terrible. Raw fuel pouring out of the pipes, filling the tent here. We could barely even breathe. They hope it's the magnetos. They're easily replaced. You see that happening now. They can still make it to the lanes. If it's a problem in the fuel system, well, that could be another story. They're mighty worried here, Eddie and Ursi both.
As the Hills looked on, that was Crew Chief Fuzzy Carter performing the work along with the rest of the crew. Now we're back to the starting line, and it is race time. Eddie Hill against the upset-minded Tommy Johnson Jr. If TJ Jr. makes it to the final round, it will be only his second final round appearance. Oh, what a close race. Eddie Hill with low elapsed time of elimination of 482, and the Hill camp knows how to celebrate. 288 miles an hour, the winning speed. Listen to the times for Tommy Johnson Jr. as we watch in replay. 488. The whole shot went to Johnson, but he could not hold off the charge. Elapsed time-wise of Eddie Hill with low ET of eliminations. Johnson's speed, 298.01 miles an hour. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
Eddie Hill, how big a question mark was this car? You had problems in the pits.
I didn't worry about the car at all. We, unfortunately, learning our way around some new magnetos, and we started it with some wires unplugged that fried some components. And the Mallory guys just busted their buns to get us fixed, and Fuzz and all the crew. But they got her handled, and the car felt like it ran great.
Best ET of the day at 482.
482. Excellent. This feels like Gainesville, doesn't it?
1 year ago, to be exact.
1 year ago, he had 4 480s. Can he do it again? He's got 3 thus far. He goes into the final round to race Ed McCulloch, and Eddie Hill will pick the lane. The youngest and the oldest top fuel drivers in competition here in Gainesville, and experience prevails.
In top fuel, his counterpart in pro stock semi-finalist Mark Powick has brought a brand new race car to this event. He retired a car that had been in operation for some 5 years, the chassis with also well over 500 runs. Now, this car doesn't necessarily run any quicker or any faster, but the difference is it's all tight. It's all brand new, and Mark's reaction times have been better here at the Gatornationals and Gainesville Raceway than they have practically any other event thus far this year. And, of course, he's already visited the winner's circle once, that victory coming at the Motorcraft Nationals in Phoenix. After the third race of the year 2 weeks ago at Houston, Warren Johnson came to Gainesville in the Winston points lead. Larry Morgan second, Mark Powick was third, Bob Glidden fourth, and Kurt Johnson number 5. The big story from Gainesville, Bob Glidden and the Motorcraft Ford Probe failed to qualify, this just 2 weeks after he won at Houston, Texas. His final qualifying effort was much like his previous efforts, oh so close. Paul Rameshi Jr. ended up in the number 16 spot with a time of 7.167 seconds. In his final qualifying effort, Bob Glidden recorded a time of 7.170. 4 thousandths of a second better time would have put Bob Glidden into the 16-car show. But it was not to be, and Steve was there to talk to a disappointed Glidden.
You hate this place.
I don't hate this place. We haven't had much good luck here either, Steve.
You'll win 2 weeks ago in Houston on top of the world and come here and not qualify. That's brutal.
That's racing. You know, you can be on top one day and on the bottom the next. This is proof of it.
What about Rusty, his car?
Well, neither one of our cars are running really well here, but he has at least made it down the track. You know, I went a 17 flat. If I'd gone a couple of thousandths quicker, I'd been in the field. He's really not quick enough to do any damage, but you know how racing goes.
Racing did not go well for the Glidden family in round number 1 as son Rusty came to the starting line against Vince Corey. Remember, it was Corey who was alongside of Bob Glidden in his failed qualifying effort. Off the starting line, Rusty held a very slight advantage, but it quickly disappeared as the Corey Oldsmobile pulled out to a lead and took the victory with a 7:22 elapsed time. The margin of victory, 41 thousandths of a second, and both of the Motorcraft Ford probes out of competition. In round number 2, it was Warren Johnson against Corey, while Jerry ECKMAN challenged Mark Powick. The other side of the ladder found Ricky Smith against David Rampey, while it was Kurt Johnson, that is Warren's son, racing against Larry Morgan in a battle of Oldsmobiles. Ricky Smith, the King, North Carolina driver, was against David Rampey in round number 2. Smith had qualified 15th and pulled off a huge upset when he beat Scott Jeffrey on in round number 1. Rampey, with his best showing thus far as a pro stock driver, had qualified 7th in a 7:13 and beat Jim Yates in the first round. Smith was the last to stage in round number 2, just beating starter Buster Couch's countdown. Both drivers had terrible reaction times. Rampey had handling problems, but Smith won the race.
Run without a sponsor, you depend on prize money. You need it.
Yeah, well, it makes you a little greedy when you ain't got a sponsor, but, you know, we're doing the best we can. We've got the car straightened out. We're running good.
You betcha.
Thank you.
For the second race in a row, Ricky Smith advanced to the semifinals. Jerry ECKMAN, the Pennzoil Pontiac driver, defeated Lewis Warden in the first round after a qualifying time of a 7:16. That was good for the 13th spot. Mark Powick's new car ran 7:11 in qualifying for the number 5 spot and defeated the Chevy of Bruce Allen in his first round race. The Summit Oldsmobile had the lane choice in round number 2, a 7:18 compared to ECKMAN's 7:21. It was Powick holding a slight advantage off the starting line. He continued to pull away from ECKMAN until he crossed the finish line first with another great time.
7:17 sends you on your way.
I'll take it. You know, it still didn't make a real good run, but we're working on it. I'm just happy we're in the semis. We got to hang in that point chase.
All right, we're happy for you, but
That celebration we have seen before from Mark Powick. It was Larry Morgan up against Kurt Johnson. Morgan in the far lane in the Castrol Super Clean car, the Torco Oldsmobile, the car owned by Gary Chimeri, used by the Scribner brothers, and driven by Kurt Johnson. He had qualified 3rd with a 7:10 and defeated Harry Scribner in the first round with a 7:15. Morgan had qualified 6th at a 7:13, ran 7:14 in the first round to beat Frank Iaconio, and the lane choice was Morgan, and may have been the difference in this race.
typically good pro stock race. 0.02 of a second between you.
That's good. That's how we're supposed to be doing it, isn't it?
With you on the right end of that, a 20 to a 22.
I shook pretty bad. I figure we can pick up a little bit.
What do you do to cure that?
You think I'm going to tell you that?
Won't share his speed secrets, Dave.
Steve, that's not unusual. Vince Curry wouldn't share them either. In round number 1, we saw him beat Rusty Glidden. He had qualified 8th in a 7:14, but Warren Johnson continued to dominate again in pro stock. He qualified first at a 7:06 and set a speed record at over 196 miles an hour. And here in round number 2, easily outdistanced Curry in the GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile 7:17 at 191. That set up the pairings for the final 4. In the semifinals, Warren Johnson will get to race the brand new car of Mark Powick, and WJ will hold the lane choice. The other side of the ladder, Larry Morgan and Ricky Smith square off yet again. Morgan holding the lane choice by some 0.05 of a second. That semifinal round of racing in pro stock when we come back. Raceway in the 24th annual running of the Motorcraft Gatornationals. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans. And it is time for the semifinal round of Pro Stock Eliminator. And this is a rematch of a race 2 weeks ago in Houston, Texas. Larry Morgan at the wheel of the Castrol Super Clean Oldsmobile. That's the bright purple machine. And that is Jim Hayter. He, a former driver, now serves as a crew chief on another car, but is stepping in to help out Ricky Smith as he brings his Pontiac Trans Am to the line. On the window of Ricky's car, you see the name, Tricky Ricky Smith. Why? Because he is noted for his ability to get a hole shot or an advantage on the starting line. It's all a matter of eye to foot to hand coordination, dumping the clutch at the flash of the yellow. Both cars set. And Ricky did it too soon. He left the red light. In other words, he was disqualified for leaving the starting line too soon. and Larry Morgan was the automatic winner. Tom Roberts, Morgan's crew chief, reacts to a great 7:19 at 192-mile-an-hour victory that puts him into the final round. The other side of this semifinal battle pits a pair of Oldsmobiles, the #1 qualifier Warren Johnson at the wheel of the GM Performance Parts Cutlass, up against Mark Powick and his Summit Racing Olds. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
Third race in a row, Larry Morgan goes to the finals. Now you got to win one.
You know, that's what I'm here for. Let me tell you, I want to give you something to talk about. You ever see that Syntec commercial where all the rest of the motors quit? I just ran this with no oil pressure from the starting line to the finish line. I don't know whether I'll make it with that motor to the next round, but I'm almost confident I will.
7:19 and a sponsor endorsement that beats any I've ever heard.
There is always a story out of Larry Morgan. And there's a story out of the Warren Johnson camp as well. As he gets ready for this semifinal round race, earlier Steve stopped by his pit area.
Security is always very tight here at the Warren Johnson Pro Stock pits. They just don't care for their competitors to know what they're doing. I mean, nothing at all. But I can tell you this late in the race, and with Warren's permission, that is not the engine in the car that set the track record and qualified #1 on Saturday at 7:06. That engine was badly damaged. There's no such thing as a weak Warren Johnson motor. Some are just stronger than others. We may not see another 7.0, and that could be a break for the guys still in competition.
That was certainly a true statement from Steve about strong Warren Johnson motors, like in round number 2, a 7:14 compared to Powick's 7:17. Powick utilizing his new car to the best advantage while Warren Johnson continues to dominate in the performance department. Both drivers now set, and another red light as Powick takes a shot at WJ and comes up wanting. He got to the finish line first. He had another 7:17, but Johnson improved on round number 2. How about a 7:13 at 193 miles an hour? Mother and son celebrating on the starting line as husband and father heads to the final round, and this is how he got there. A perceptible red light by Mark Powick. He was intentionally trying to get a big advantage over Warren Johnson, but it fell short. For the third race in a row, Larry Morgan, this time challenging Warren Johnson for the Gatornationals title. Let's go down to the far end and Steve.
Well, Warren Johnson will have the hot hand going into the final round against Larry Morgan. A 7:13 lane choice. Can't hurt.
Well, it can't hurt out here, but 13 is not much of an advantage over Larry because Larry's been driving extremely good today. But, you know, we can take him one round at a time. That's the only way you can win a championship.
Did you see the red light on your opponent there?
I normally look up in third gear because it gets kind of boring in there in third gear. So I looked up and saw his, that I had the wind light already, so I knew he had red lighted.
Okay, Warren. Gets boring in there? I think not.
As WJ heads to yet another championship round, we'll have the Gatornationals funny car story. A string of new alive in all 3 of our pro categories here at the Motorcraft Gatornationals at Gainesville Raceway is our semi-finalist in funny car, Gary Bolger, at the wheel of the Creasy family entry. What's new about this operation? It's this. The brand new Pontiac Firebird Formula body, a very aerodynamic shape designed to cut through the wind even quicker. But underneath, it is the same car. The chassis is the same. The engine is the same, and don't forget, the Creasy family group's the one that runs without a computer, without all of the aids that the other competitors in funny car have in competition here. As we started racing here at the Gatornationals in Gainesville, the 2-time Winston champ John Force held the points lead with the reigning champion Cruz Petragon in second. Third was Al Hoffman, followed by Del Worsham and Jim Epler. In round number 1 of competition, the number 2 qualifier, the forever young car driven by Freddie Neely and crewed by Ronnie Swearingen, had a 5:09 time for a lane choice over Tom Hoover in the Pioneer Electronics car. Hoover had problems, and Neely streaked to a 5:10 at 293.15 miles an hour, a new national speed record for the Dick Brown Motorsports Ford Pro. The eliminations ladder for round number 2 of competition found Al Hoffman against Chuck Etchels, while Gary Bolger with his brand new Pontiac was against Whit Bazemore. Freddie Neely had the lane choice over Gordon Mineo, and John Force and Cruz Pedregon squared off in a battle that was most important to the Winston points chase. Force had qualified third at a 5:10 and beat Wyatt Radke in the first round, while Pedregon had qualified sixth. At a 5:20, he defeated Jerry Caminito in his first round race. It was Pedregon's 5:29 in that race with Jerry that gave him the lane choice here in round number 2 over Force, who had been able to muster only a 5:74 in his round 1 victory over Radke. The crew chief, Austin Coyle, had worked some magic, though, because as the two cars approached the starting line, the overflow crowd at Gainesville Raceway was treated to yet another sterling performance. It was John Force winning at a 5:09.292.
Well, John, this hot rod of yours wanted to use the entire racetrack. You were driving it.
Just like them NASCAR boys, just like Rusty over there. That's how we do it, right? Hey, it was a good old ride, and she trucked right down through there, and
5:09.
Oh, my boys are getting greedy. They make me a little nervous, especially with all that rain, but naturally NHRA saved us far. They fixed her again like they always do. Thank you, boys.
Want some speed? 292.
Yeah, well, she's a hot dog today, but from better to worse, we'll take it.
Rusty Wallace is indeed down here having a good time with his drag racing pals.
See you. Wallace, who finished third yesterday in Atlanta, offered his congratulations to John Force. Gordon Mineo out of Rockwall, Texas, bounced back after that disastrous fire in Houston 2 weeks ago. He also running one of those Pontiac Formula Firebird bodies. He was in the near lane in this second round race against Freddie Neely. On paper, Freddie had every advantage one could ask for. A 5:10 victory over Tom Hoover in round number 1, while Mineo slowed to a 5:68, well off his qualifying pace, and he defeated Paul Smith in the first round. Mineo had problems, but none for Neely. 5:17 at 290.
Not bad for a team that hasn't been out in about 6 months, headed for the semifinals with a 5:17.
Well, we came here to do a little testing, Steve, working on some sponsorship deals, and car's running real well. Dick Brown gives us the opportunity to come down here to run, so got to take advantage of it.
And another nice 290. This thing is ready for the semifinals.
Hey, I hope it's ready for the semifinals, because John Force is going to be tough. We got to really step on it to get around him.
Okay, Freddie.
Thank you.
Still in round number 2 of funny car competition, Chuck Etchels in the Nobody Beats the Whiz Dodge had qualified well, number 8 at a 5:30, and defeated Gordy Fonan in the first round. But after his car started in round number 2, the crew headed up by Tim Richards poured over the engine, which lost fire. And as a result, it was a single for the number 1 qualifier, Al Hoffman. He had started eliminations with a new track record time of 5.08 seconds, but in the first round race against Jim Epler had slowed to a 5:40. In fact, Etchels had the lane choice in this second round match, but when his engine lost fire, Hoffman got the break of the day. He ran a 5:21, still off his qualifying pace.
Well, the man who was qualified number 1 at 5:08 slows down here in round number 2 to a 5:21. And I wonder, Al Hoffman, how much of that is intentional?
We're just trying to conserve the deal and get down the track without smoking the tires and turn on wind lights. You know, we're counting them NHRA Winston points, and they're important right now. And we just pulled ahead of Cruz, and I'm happy.
What if you lose lane choice with that 5:21? We won't know for a few seconds.
Those lanes are real even. I ain't worried about it. We ran to the left, we ran to the right. Either one of those lanes will hold no.
Gary Bolger used that Pontiac body to advantage in round number 1 as he upset Dale Puldy. His second round opponent, Whit Bazemore, at the wheel of the fast orange Ford Probe, also was upset-minded. He put away a tire-smoking Del Worship with an elapsed time of a 5:26. That gave him lane choice here in round number 2, and Whit selected the far lane. But it was this round that Bazemore had his problem. Bolger got a big lead off the starting line, and Bazemore had to shut off at about the 3/4 mark. Gary the winner.
Nobody I'd rather interview than this man. I just don't get to do it often enough. Gary, 5:32, that's good for this car.
It's still running too slow. We'll get it there. Those guys give up yet?
Not yet. I didn't see any white flags.
They will shortly. Don't worry.
Okay, who are you going to get the next round? Let's see, Al Hoffman.
Piece of cake. We'll have a good run with him.
Hey, this thing can step up.
If confidence is a determining factor in winning, look out for Gary Bolger, but he is up against Al Hoffman, who has the lane choice of 5:21. to a 5:32. The other side of the semifinal ladder, fast Freddie Neely against John Force, the quickest funny car in the world today. Force holding the lane choice there. His 5:09 better than Neely's 5:17. We've had more rain, but the 4th annual Motorcraft Gatornationals at Gainesville Raceway near Gainesville, Florida, and the upset-minded Gary Bolger at the wheel of the brand-new Pontiac of the Creasy family has got quite a challenge on his hands here. It is the #1 qualifier, the blower drive service Dodge Daytona of Al Hoffman. On paper, the car in the near lane has got a decided advantage, almost a full 1/10 of a second over Bolger based on their second round victory time. And Bolger goes up in smoke as Hoffman streaks to the finish line and a championship round appearance. His elapsed time, 5:17 at 284 miles an hour, continuing to improve with every round of elimination. Al Hoffman, the low qualifier in the final. Coming up next, the #3 and #2 qualified cars. Here is John Force at the wheel of the Castrol GTX Oldsmobile, and you're on board for one of the fabled John Force burnouts. The tire smoke begins to make its way inside the Oldsmobile Cutlass body. On paper, Force has got a big advantage over Freddie Neely, the #2 qualifier, but don't necessarily use the second round time as the best example. Force ran a 5:09 compared to Neely's 5:17. Let's go to Steve Evans with Al Hoffman.
Whoa, you look like a tired man for 5 seconds worth of work.
I'm getting too old for this stuff.
5:17, a nice one.
Yeah, it's going the right direction here. Again, BDS, New Orlando Dodge Daytona is doing a great job. Tommy Anderson, I really got to hand it to him for #1 qualifier. He did a great job here. My whole crew, Andy Nearing, Brian McDermott, my wife Helen. Just can't say enough about the whole crew. We're counting them NHRA Winston points and picking up on crews. That's what we're looking for. We moved into #2 and pulled ahead.
All right, let's see who's going to race.
Steve, here we are at the 4th race of the year, and everybody is already thinking about those Winston points. As Al Hoffman paid tribute to his crew, particularly his crew chief Tom Anderson, John Force and Freddie Neely both have got to be congratulating their crew chiefs, Austin Coyle, and in the case of Neely, Ronnie Swearingen. Tremendous start. Force and Neely across the finish line. It is Force winning it, and listen to the time. 5:09 for Force at 293 miles an hour. For Freddie Neely, 1/1000th of a second slower. 5:09 with a 5 at 295.37 miles an hour. The fastest speed ever recorded by a funny car. Neely was just inches behind when they crossed the finish line in the quickest and fastest side-by-side funny car race ever. Here's Steve.
John Force, you have never, ever been in a better drag race than that one.
Unbelievable. I don't know exactly what was going on, Steve, but I tell you what, what's that helmet there? She was trucking down through there, and about 800-foot, boy, fire went over both sides. I thought, oh, man, she's coming apart, but I think they were just keeping her rich and to keep her alive.
You both ran 5:09. 1/1000th was the difference.
Well, that shows the name of the game here. It takes a lot of luck, but Neely's doing a great job, and Ronnie Swearingen, he's a great guy, and we're just happy that we can come in here for our people at Castrol, Dorman, all of them, and give them a show.
What a show. Steve, I'll second that. I haven't seen anything like that. Side-by-side 5:09, 293 to 295. It propels Force into the finals against Hoffman, and John will pick the lane. In the Ed McCulloch pit area, the ace, crew chief Lee Beard and National Dragsters Phil Burgess in a strategy discussion. It's getting dark in Gainesville. Final round racing next. Way, and boy, did it get dark all of a sudden. Another rain shower swept over Gainesville Raceway, and as a result, the track preparation time put us into the darkness here for the finals of the 24th annual Motorcraft Gatornationals. It is a pair of Oldsmobiles in pro stock. The GM Performance Parts Cutlass, driven by Warren Johnson in the near lane. Making his 3rd consecutive final round appearance is Larry Morgan at the wheel of the Castrol Super Clean Oldsmobile. The engine's coming up to full RPM. The clutch is out, and Morgan has handling problems. He gets out close to the guardrail and has to lift, and Warren Johnson goes across the finish line, the winner. 7.14 seconds at 193 miles an hour. A tremendous victory, his second of the year for Warren Johnson, the reigning Winston champ and current points leader, extending that margin of lead in the Winston chase. You see there, Morgan drifting out close to the guardrail, and at that point, he was off the throttle to get it back into the lane. By the time he could get back into the accelerator, it was too late, because Warren Johnson was ahead and streaking to the finish line for his 46th career victory. Steve?
As I said before, there's no such thing as a weak Warren Johnson motor. Your number 3 power plant takes you to the winner's circle.
I'll tell you, this is one of the roughest races I've had in a long time. We came into this race looking real good, hurt a motor, ended up going with our number 3 piece in there, and really operated with a handicap all day long. But, you know, when Oldsmobile and GM Performance Parts steps up to the plate and helps us, this is what happens.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Incredible 62 final round appearances, 46 victories, a batting average of .743 for the points leader, Warren Johnson. Morgan's in second, Mark Powick third, Kurt Johnson is fourth, and Scott Jeffreyon rounds out our top 5. Here's the final for Funny Car. It is John Force. Remember, 5:09 was the elapsed time in the semifinal round. Side by side, the quickest run ever against Freddie Neely, who also ran 5:09. That gave John the lane choice over the blower drive service Dodge Daytona of Al Hoffman. His time was a 5:17 in his semifinal round victory. He stayed very carefully here in the darkness. As they hit the throttle, the flames come up, and so do the front wheels on Al Hoffman's car. A big wheel stand, and John Force wins it conservatively. 5:21 at only 257 miles an hour. And what a victory for Force. This, his third of the year and second in a row. Watch it replay. The blower drive service Dodge up, up, up until finally Al Hoffman lifts off the throttle. The flames go away, and the car settles back to the asphalt. Just how high did Hoffman go? Look at this from another angle. Boy, I'll tell you, that was a wild ride for Al Hoffman, runner-up to John Force for the Funny Car title.
John, from the looks of the flames going into the lights, I thought this baby is going to go kaboom, but you saved it.
Really makes me mad. Cole takes my little buddy here and tries to ruin it. She last run, I told her, stuff's flying out. She's going to go. And he said, no, she won't. It's just nighttime racing. Well, let me tell you something. There was clutches coming out. There was parts going, fire inside. Only thing I saved was the fire bottles, but what the heck? We won. We did it. It's Gainesville, right?
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. It's a great feeling. We're just inching that way out there in that lead, and what can I say? My people, Castro, Jolly Rancheros, the Wax Shop, Dorman, these people expect me to win. Krager, we're going to keep winning. We're going to keep blowing up the stuff. We're going to keep spending that money. And I love driving these things because they're exciting at night.
Could I add a word to that?
I'm not going to try. It's a shame that John can't get excited about winning his third victory of the year. He's got a big lead over Al Hoffman. Cruz Pedregon is in third, Del Worsham fourth, and Jim Effler, number 5. While Force's crew may not be terribly excited, John certainly is here at Gainesville Raceway, and it is our final round confrontation in Top Fuel Eliminator. As the two drivers come to the starting line, there is a total age of 108 years between them. Eddie Hill at the age of 57, Ed McCulloch at the age of 51. This is the second full season in Top Fuel Eliminator for McCulloch. He loves this racetrack at Gainesville as he drove his Funny Car to victory 4 times here, starting as far back as 1972. He won again in 86, 89, and 90. Of course, Hill is the defending champion. He accomplished that goal with last year's Nuclear Banana. Remember, this is a brand new car, a virtual duplicate of that entry. The stoic look of Fuzzy Carter, the crew chief for Eddie Hill, trying to position his driver exactly where he wants him on the starting line. On the opposite side of the racetrack, Lee Beard, the crew chief for Ed McCulloch, doing exactly the same thing. With the cool temperatures and the heavy humidity caused by all the rains we have had here today at Gainesville, they want these cars to be in exactly the track of the burnout. That will give them the maximum traction they can reach. Ed McCulloch has won once this season. He picked up the title 2 weeks ago at Houston. As Ersie Hill looks on, that's Eddie's wife, He is off a victory at Phoenix earlier this year, just about a month ago. Some 5,000 horsepower sitting between the frame rails of each of these automobiles. It staggers your mind when you think that there's over 10,000 horsepower available to these two drivers. Tremendous launch. And Eddie Hill pulls it out in the last few feet. And Fuzzy Carter is no longer the stoic observer. Look at this celebration. What's Fuzzy going to do now? He's taking off his hat, he's running over to the grandstand, and he's pitching it to the crowd. Let's look at this one again in replay. A tremendously close race, won by Eddie Hill right there at the starting line. He had 0.05 of a second advantage over Ed McCulloch as they left the line, and he needed it as McCulloch ran quicker. Here were the times. Hill 4:87 at 2:86. McCulloch 4:86 at 2:94.
Tell us about that one. It was a beauty.
Oh, man, that felt so good. I wish you'd have been in there with me. It was pretty dark down there, but that car felt like it was hauling its buns, and it's a great day for Pennzoil and Trader's Truck Accessories and Snap-on Tools and Fuzz and Jana and Ursi. I mean, the guys and everybody just did a great job, and the car was fantastic. What a debut for a new car, huh?
One little footnote. You won it on a hole shot. Great job.
I did on a hole shot. Oh, fantastic. What did we run?
Doesn't much matter. Dave, that's a wrap down here.
The oldest guy out here?
Not only the oldest guy out here, the oldest man ever to win a Top Fuel title at the age of 57. The win put Hill in second behind McCulloch in the Winston Points chase. Then it is Amato, Herbert, and Bernstein rounding out the top five. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan. The 1993 NHRA Motorcraft Ford Gatornationals has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich, when you're ready to get serious. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. With that fresh, pure, natural taste, nothing beats a Bud. Coverage of the NHRA Motorcraft Ford Gatornationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports in association with ES.